when you pre-author a campaign, have you seen any structures that work particularly well, let's say for a launch of a product or of a, in our case, of a new deal, right, that's coming down the pipe? In other words, a 3-email or a 9-email sequence or something like that. That's just a straight line, irrespective of what you do during it, what a recipient does during.
Yeah, so yes, there's a couple of key things that I think people need to take a look at. Number one, probably the most important thing is getting your subject line correct.
Really?
It's, you know, think about your own inbox, right? I don't know about you. I mean, I get hundreds and hundreds of emails a day, and you just kind of going down real quickly and say delete, 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 delete. So something's got to jump out at you, and that's why it's so important to not just say, hey, let me just go buy a bunch of lists of email addresses and put them in there. If you can have any information about the people that you're doing or sending stuff to, it's really important. So because if somebody's in a certain business or in a certain industry or whatever, you want to get something that's kind of like ticks to them, you know, and says like, oh, okay, this is interesting. Let me do it. So think about yourself and say, you know, what makes you open up an email? You know, obviously, if it's somebody you know, you're gonna open it up. But if it's not something you know, the subject line is interesting. So that's going to be critical, right? And how you do that. Now, if you have a good tool is going to help you to say like, okay, based upon, you know, what you're trying to do, here's a couple of examples, and then you can kind of, you know, customize it from
right
there. So that's number one. Number two is the body of the actual email or whatever you're sending out is really, really important. Two big key things. Know that your audience, you know, is probably not always going to be sitting in front of a laptop or in front of a desktop or something like that and opening this up. They're probably 90% of the time going to open this thing up on a phone, right? So whatever you do, make sure it looks good on a phone, not just looks good on a desktop or laptop. It has to render, you know, a tablet, whatever, and those sort of things. So that's really critical. And the next thing is to when somebody opens it is, you know, where's the best place to put what we call the call to action, the click through. And, you know, is it just a link or is it a box or whatever? Is it above what we call above the fold, right? So, you know, those type of, so those are the types of things that, you know, you need to look at. Now, to somebody maybe in your industry or a landscaper or whatever, they're going to say, I don't know how to do all that, right? So that's when you really need a good tool. And there are a lot of good tools out there. They're going to be pre-populated with a lot of this stuff. They're going to come by industry, and so, you know, if you buy a tool and it comes empty, it's not a good tool, you know, type of thing. Because why? This email marketing automation has been around for 15 years, 20, you know, whatever. And so there's people. If you're a good vendor, you're going to be capturing what works, what doesn't work, and then be able to put that back into the tool and say, hey, you know, here's an industry called real estate or land development or whatever, and here's a bunch of pre-populated content that all you have to do is click here and it'll bring your names in, or maybe you can move stuff around very quickly, so you don't have to start from scratch.